Good afternoon. The parent involvement in the IEP process is governed by rules that IDEA sets. An IDEA is Individual Disabilities Education Act, and they require that parents are involved as a member of the IEP team. It's important that they're involved on every stage of the IEP process. The parents and guardians' role is to express any concerns that they have, suggest any appropriate accommodations for the student, and make suggestions for IEP goals. Student involvement is going to depend on how old they are. If they're 15 and younger, they have to be involved at some point in the IEP process, and it's all going to be dependent upon how mature they are and how much they understand about the IEP process. If they're older than 15, they are required to be a part of the IEP process. They can actually start expressing themselves and talking about their own concerns and what their hopes and dreams are for the future. The referral process has to be done by the parent or through a school professional. Once the referral is made, they have 60 days to get the student evaluated for special needs services, and it is only done after the parent has signed a consent form for the school to test the student. After the testing is done and the student is eligible for special needs services, then an IEP meeting is held. The IEP meeting has to be held within 30 days of determining the student qualifies for special education services. Then IEP is implemented and the student will start receiving services. During the IEP process, the student is continually monitored to make sure they are reaching their goals and they're reaching the desired behaviors or whatever it might be set in the IEP. And then once a year, there is an IEP meeting that is held for these students to make sure the IEP is adequate and all the services that are listed is still needed for that student, or we needed to add more for that student for the next school year. Evaluation. This process of evaluation is done by multiple tools. The team will gather the parents' and guardians' input on what they're seeing at home. They make observations in the classroom. They interview where their interviews will be conducted, review any existing data, valid assessment instruments are used, and additional data that is deemed necessary by a qualified professional will be collected. The evaluation assessment must be done in a child's native language. So if Spanish is their primary language, it should be done in Spanish. The assessment cannot discriminate against their nature or their culture. Then the evaluation will be administered and interpreted by knowledgeable personnel staff. And then after everything is done, the parents do receive a copy of the evaluation report and what the services are being recommended for that student. To be eligible for special needs services, a student needs to be diagnosed or have one of the following: specific learning disability, speech and language impairment, other health impairments, autism disorder, intellectual disability, emotional disturbance, developmental delay, multiple disabilities, hearing impairments, visual impairments, orthopedic impairments, traumatic brain injury, or the student is deaf or blind. The expectation for communication between teachers and parents is that there's open communication. So the teacher can share with the parent what they're seeing at school, how the child is acting, what might need to be adjusted. And then the parent can share with the teacher what they're seeing at home if they feel like something needs to change. This communication, if there needs to be any change in the student's IEP, it needs to be done in writing, and for the parent to have a meeting so that they can make the proper adjustments. But having the open and accurate communication between these two parties is very key to making sure the student's academic success is perfect. There's ethical responsibilities that the school personnel needs to follow as well. Financially, or providing accurate and comprehensive information, needs to have open collaboration with parents and other professionals at the school, like speech therapy or OT services or music therapy, depending on what services the child might need. They need to be advocating for the student to make sure they're getting the services that are appropriate for them. Maintain confidentiality at all times. And ensure that the IEP that is written and the goals that are in the IEP are what the students need to achieve both academically and functionally. While doing all that, the teacher needs to be fair and respectful to the parents and to the student.